Encountering the ascending view of cosmic wonders, I gained a ray of super-dimensional power, to embrace the Yin and Yang immortal species and cross into the obscured sky to become the divine son of the Sun God Sect. In the future, Li Wangxian, the elder brother of the first disciple of the Heavenly Emperor, and Li Wangxian, together with the cultivator of the Taiyin Sun, built an unparalleled foundation and embarked on a journey of pushing the imperial path like the Great Emperor Wushi. Years later, facing the Holy Emperor's skin who responded to the call of sentient beings and returned from the heavens, Li Wangxian stepped out and stopped the revived skin, saying, "There is no need to disturb the heroic souls of our ancestors. Dragging our bodies, we will launch another expedition. In our future generations, we hope that immortals are not talented. We are willing to fight for our ancestors, fight against the darkness, calm the chaos, and bless the human race." Then a loud roar echoed through the 9 heavens and 10 earth, and the eternal starry sky said, "Tower, come with me and fight." Behind him, the Sun Emperor Tower erupted with vast imperial energy, cutting through the universe and following it from the sky. Keywords of the novel. Covering the sky. Our Emperor's road, which cultivates both Yin and Yang, is invincible with no pop-ups. Covering the sky. Our Emperor's road, which cultivates both Yin and Yang, is invincible with no pop-ups. Download the complete text. Covering the sky. Our Emperor's road, which cultivates both Yin and Yang, is invincible with no pop-ups. The latest chapter for reading. Chapter 1. Proximity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 2. Practice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Practice. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed. Li Wangxian is finally about to start his formal cultivation. Over the past 3 years, Li's father has personally sealed the bitter sea of Li Wangxian. After all, he is connected to the essence of heaven and earth. If he is constantly practicing on his own, and if there are no restrictions, he probably has already completed the Luanhai realm and is about to break into the Tao Palace. This is naturally not possible, after all, it does not follow the principles of the scriptures, and the cultivation driven by the essence of heaven and earth is too superficial, which will only be harmful and useless for future cultivation. After the bitter sea was sealed, the essence from heaven and earth was automatically incorporated into the Tao seed by the Yin and Yang immortal species, and then transformed into divine spirits, which in turn nourished Li Wangxian, the destined master, and turned into his infinite potential. This left Li's father, who had originally planned to personally comb his son's vitality day by day, stunned. Such a supernatural wonder, what is the physique of his own son? 3 years have passed, and Li Wangxian's physique remains a mystery. After all, they have not yet discovered the existence of the Yin and Yang immortal species. They only know that there are 2 Yin and Yang energies swirling in the bitter sea, nourishing Li Wangxian. However, this is also normal. This peerless immortal species is a rare encounter among true immortals, and naturally has its supernatural qualities. If I say I am immortal, will I be beaten? But I'm really just a mortal. Even though I have been nourished by external factors such as immortal seeds for 3 years now, my physical body and spirit have undergone several transformations, and my original power is not inferior to that of divine bodies, but this cannot change that I am just a mortal body. Li Wangxian thought this way in his heart, but on his face, he looked calm and wise. After all, since he was young, his character has always been this kind of smart and calm demeanor. This kind of behavior made several elderly people next to them nod silently. Undoubtedly, they are the immortal seedlings and divine beings of their sun god cult. Not only are they exceptionally talented, but they can also maintain such composure when officially embarking on cultivation, which is also impressive in their mentality. Li's father also praised his own child's performance in his heart, secretly saying that he truly deserved to be his own seed. Then he took out 2 scriptures, one Shaoyang classic and one Sun residual classic, and handed them to his own child. Li Wangxian took the scripture, with a calm and serene expression on his face. The fact that the sun scripture had long been lost was known to him when he understood that this was a cover for the sky. The Shaoyang scripture was created by a powerful ancestor who wanted to walk his own path before the decline of the Sun God Sect a long time ago. He naturally failed, but this scripture is also extraordinary, with a holy level. So currently, the main practice of the Sun sect is this Shaoyang Sutra, which is ironic. It is called the Sun sect, and the practitioners are actually the Shaoyang Sutra. The Sun God Sect has achieved such success that certain forbidden areas, certain ethnic groups, and even certain human race sects in the Violet Star domain are indispensable. Li has already recorded this cause and effect. The Sun Sutra, on the other hand, was created by the elders of various dynasties after the loss of the true scripture. They worked hard to fill in the missing chapters and sentences from ancient texts in the religion, based on some of the scriptures that were not widely circulated. That's all, the elders dare not fill in more. Only the scriptures in the Luanhai and Daogong realms are relatively complete due to their preservation and loss, and less than half of the remaining 4 extremes and dragon transformation scrolls are incomplete. Moreover, most of these half are speculations for reference, and they dare not be certain, fearing that they may miss future generations. The Sendai rolls are completely gone. In fact, Li Wangxian was also surprised to have this incomplete scripture. He thought that the Sun Scripture Society had nothing left and had lost everything. But upon careful consideration, although the Sun God cult was slaughtered by countless people in the underworld in distant times, leading to its decline. But since the Sun sect has been able to continue to pass down for so many years, there were still some people who survived back then. These people may not have achieved high cultivation, such as the Tao Palace or even the Wheel Sea realm. However, these 2 volumes of scriptures have been passed down after stumbling. Although they are only 7 or 8 parts complete, they have still been preserved. Is this a rotten ship with 3 nails left? During these 3 years, Li Wangxian had already gained a good understanding of the teachings of these 2 scriptures from the elders. After all, although he had not truly practiced in order to lay a solid foundation, 3 years of time would not have been wasted. Through the diligent teachings of the elders, he had already gained a profound understanding of cultivation, and the scriptures were also broken and crushed by the elders and sent to his mind. Everything was ready, and Li Wangxian first earnestly comprehended the Shaoyang classic. In an instant, he felt as if he was in harmony with the Tao, and his every move and gesture resonated with the heavens and earth. This kind of performance, even if he was not a Taoist, probably no one would believe it. At the same time, the power of the yin-yang immortal species is also stimulated, and the Tao Yun spiritual machine that fills the world is swallowed up in large quantities within the body. He is blessed to the soul, sensing the existence of the wheel of life and the sea of sorrow, where the source of divine power is boiling. Li Wangxian silently recited the ancient scripture in his heart. The great road is like a deep abyss, the ancestor of all things, the cycle of yin and yang. Starting to silently operate the mystical techniques recorded in the Shaoyang classic, pounding the bitter sea. I don't know how long it took, but his body suddenly shone brightly, and waves of tsunami-like sounds came from his abdomen. That was where the wheel of life was located, and cultivation began from the wheel of life in the human body. All things have their place of birth and development, and there is also a place within the human body where the fundamental vitality of life lies, containing the essence and energy of the whole body. It is called the wheel of life source or the wheel of life. This is where ordinary people give birth to children and Taoist people give birth to the body, which is the fundamental foundation of cultivators. And the sea of suffering is an endless sea of hardships that covers the wheel of life. The bitter sea coincides with the wheel of life, or more precisely, the bitter sea submerges the wheel of life, which can be regarded as the foundation of a cultivator. If one reaches the legendary realm, keeps the wheel of life crystal clear, without scars or marks, always like a newborn, perhaps there is a glimmer of hope for immortality. But not only will time sharpen the wheel of life, but the sea of suffering is also gradually eroding it. The sea of suffering covers the wheel of life, overlapping and giving birth, leaving a mark on the wheel of life every year until it is covered with scars and completely destroyed. That is the moment when a person's lifespan is exhausted and they return to death. And all the essence of a cultivator lies in the wheel of life, so one of the purposes of cultivation is to overcome the sea of suffering. Therefore, cultivators must first open up a sea of suffering and gradually grow stronger. Only in this way can they explore the wheel of life, because the two overlap. Then, releasing endless life essence, hovering over the sea of bitterness, overflowing throughout the body, nourishing blood, flesh, organs, and bones, strengthening the flesh and shell, and initially transcending mortals, this is the first realm of this sea realm. The sea of bitterness. This is also the first step in cultivation. As he practiced, Li Wangxian's bitter sea burst out with endless immortal radiance, shining brightly like a rainbow. His body was filled with the transformation of Yin and Yang Qi into waves surging, which was the Yin and Yang immortal seed swallowing the Tao Yun spiritual machine. Between the two Qi interweaving, there were even threads of chaotic energy shining. Over the tumultuous black sea of bitterness, there is a swirling flow of Yin and Yang energy. Gradually, it begins to evolve into strands of inexplicable and mysterious energy mechanisms, as if returning to a time when heaven and earth have not yet opened and the world is in chaos. He savored it carefully, and a mysterious feeling surged in his heart. He felt a void in his heart, with wisps of fairy light overflowing from the sea of suffering, flowing towards his limbs and bones, making him feel comfortable and nourished. At this moment, he seemed to have an inexhaustible power. Is this practice? It's a wonderful feeling. Li Wangxian was very surprised. He was in harmony with the Tao, and at this moment, he felt the vitality of the unity of heaven and earth, which gave rise to all things. He also experienced the lifelessness of the universe's withering and the withering of the starry sky. Without knowing the length of time for cultivation, in the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed, and Li Wangxian, who had been in the state of enlightenment, gradually woke up. At this moment, an astonishing change occurred in the black sea of suffering. At the center, colorful mist was steaming, shrouded in countless divine patterns. Under the sea of suffering, it seemed like a volcano was reviving, with bubbles and springs surging, and continuous rays of sunlight rushing out of the sea. Li Wangxian understood this and did not feel confused. A cultivator in the realm of the bitter sea goes through several processes. At first, only a small amount of life essence surrounds the sky above the bitter sea. Over time, as the essence accumulates, it condenses into divine patterns, like a divine iron chain that runs horizontally above the bitter sea. As the sea of suffering continues to open up and cultivation deepens, bubbles will burst out and form clouds and clouds after rupture. Until later, bubbles under the bitter sea were like springs, like a volcano reviving, with clouds rising and spreading, dazzling and dazzling. When one day, the volcano under the bitter sea fully recovers, the brilliant clouds will gradually turn into liquid. At that moment, you can try to break through the realm of the life spring. If successful, there will be a divine spring gushing out of the volcano crater. A cultivator in the realm of the bitter sea must go through these three processes in order to break into the realm of the life spring. Today, Li Wangxian went through the second process. The center of the black bitter sea was almost boiling, with air flowing like a spring, where the clouds were flourishing like a volcano, constantly erupting and extremely brilliant. If you don't wake up in time and press down a bit, you'll be heading straight towards the spring of life or even the divine bridge realm. Li Wangxian was muttering to himself, his voice not loud, but how could he not hear Li's father, mother, and several old men around him who were not successful cultivators? For a moment, everyone couldn't help but show a look of surprise and joy. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Tianzong's capital. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Tianzong's capital. After muttering to himself, Li Wangxian did not rush to read the Sun Sutra. Instead, he picked up the Shaoyang Sutra and carefully studied it, pondering its meaning. Then, he supplemented it with the insights left by his predecessors and listened to the teachings of the elderly in the teachings. In this way, after more than 10 days, he had already consolidated his cultivation and fully mastered all the cultivation passes in the secret realm of Luanhai. It was only after that he opened the Luanhai scroll of the Sun's Remnants Sutra. After truly reciting, Li Wangxian couldn't help but sigh that the divine power of the ancient emperor's realm could not be guessed. Even if it was a remnant of the scripture, that Tao and Li contained in it were much more profound and complex than those in the Shaoyang scripture. It is precisely because it is too complex and some key points are missing that he needs to first practice the complete Shaoyang classic, understand the complete cultivation process of this realm, and then comprehend the cultivation to avoid going wrong. Afterwards, Li Wangxian lived in seclusion and spent the vast majority of his time practicing the Sun Sutra, observing the yin-yang immortal seed's enlightenment, except for occasional meals and sleeping. This is amazing. There is a complete Taiyin Sun Tao within the immortal seed, which is a great creation. Who in ancient times could use this invincible immortal seed to comprehend and practice in this realm? So the senior members of the Sun cult seem to see a new myth rising in the history of cultivation. After observing the sun's rays for a month, at the center of Li Wangxian's half-fist-sized bitter sea, a spring eye appeared, communicating with the wheel of life. The divine spring was gurgling and surging, shrouded in a misty mist. This was the second small realm of the Wheel Sea secret realm, the spring of life. At this step, the cultivator has a source of power and can unleash various mystical techniques and divine powers, possessing unpredictable power. This is a crucial step in the cultivator's transformation. As long as the source of divine power is endless, the magical power will be endless. At this point, the cultivator was already able to control the divine rainbow, and the life spring emitted divine light. He could then control the rainbow and fly to the sky and escape to the earth, using countless exquisite and mysterious techniques. For another 3 months, Li Wangxian observed the yin-yang immortal seed and felt the sensation of the Sun Tao. He created himself in the sea of suffering, brewed vitality in the withered silence, cultivated divine veins, and sacrificed himself to form a sky bridge, crossing the sky in dazzling. He cultivated the third small realm of the Wheel Sea realm, the divine bridge realm. This realm is very wonderful, with endless mysteries in the human body. Powerful cultivators do not want to be trapped in the sea of suffering and want to explore other unknown human body secrets, thus leading to the journey of crossing the sea of suffering. In order to achieve their goal, the cultivator needs to transform the flesh shell and create a divine pulse in the sea of suffering, helping it break through obstacles and reach the other end of the sea of suffering. This is a difficult and long process, where the cultivator will become stronger and stronger, ultimately allowing the Wheel Sea to sublime, form the divine veins of heaven and earth, and unleash their endless potential. This is the third realm of the Wheel Sea realm, the divine bridge. For another 6 months, Li Wangxian seemed to have been born for cultivation. He was in harmony with the Tao and had an unparalleled understanding and comprehension of the Tao. He grasped the profound meaning of the Sun's residual classic and the Shaoyang classic. Later on, he attempted to repair the scriptures of the Sun's residual scripture, the Wheel Sea secret realm, and even more astonishing, with the help of years of understanding the Sun Tao in the immortal race, he truly explored some ways. However, unfortunately, he was not able to succeed in the end. He was far from being able to create methods or modify this level of scripture, and even did not have the qualifications to become a repairman by using the complete solar path in the yin-yang immortal seed. However, even so, it can still be seen that Li Wangxian has a grand spirit and a talent for cultivation that ordinary people cannot understand. After all, who in ancient times dared to have the ambition to repair the imperial scriptures within less than a year of cultivation? And did you really see some tricks? The harvest this experience brought to Li Wangxian was undoubtedly enormous. In terms of cultivation and creation, he gained an understanding that ordinary people could not comprehend. His cultivation also reached the peak of the divine bridge realm, with his divine veins shining like rainbows, crossing the sky above the bitter sea, and his desire to penetrate the outer sea. At this moment, he noticed something unusual. His eyes were hazy and he couldn't see anything, as if he had lost his direction. He poked out his powerful divine sense and scanned all directions. Surprisingly, the divine sense emitted, but what he saw was still a hazy mist, with nothing else. My five senses, my spiritual consciousness, were all blurred, and he realized in his heart that this was the disaster of losing the divine bridge realm. Only by cultivating the heavenly meridian, crossing over the bitter sea and leading to the other shore, can we overcome this dilemma. This is the crucial level of the divine bridge realm. But where can the heavenly vein grow and traverse the void before reaching the other shore? Some people, for the rest of their lives, are unable to break through their illusions, trapped at the end of the divine bridge, unable to cross the sea of suffering, and this is the disaster of loss. Even in the most severe cases, the five senses will be deprived, and spiritual consciousness will be completely lost, becoming an ignorant and unconscious useless person, which is most terrifying. When most people form their heavenly meridians, they will encounter fog blocking the way and don't know where to go, but it's not serious. Just calm down and pass through without being able to stop them. Li Wangxian's cultivation has been very smooth until now, and it can be said that there have been no setbacks. Before reaching the summit of the divine bridge, he was not trapped or restricted at all. It was not until this moment that he completely erupted, an endless mist burst out, and his illusions obscured his spiritual consciousness, blocking his path. This was a serious disaster of loss. Crossing the sea is the other shore. A life and death test is before his eyes, and he must go through it. There is no such thing as a way out, otherwise his hearing, vision, and other five senses will be deprived and completely lost. This is a process of questioning the mind. Powerful cultivators need to overcome this level on their own and must personally experience it, otherwise the subsequent cultivation will be overshadowed and their spiritual perception will no longer be sharp. In a sense, although the disaster of loss is a kind of hardship, if it is overcome, both the body and mind will be baptized, which will open up people's instinctive intuition and make their subconscious stronger, breaking through illusions and pointing straight to the source. Li Wangxian closed his eyes and remained motionless, like a fossil, until half a month later when he whispered, "I won't get lost." At this moment, in his eyes, the mist was deep and locked in all directions. He seemed to be trapped in a cage, his mind immersed in the sea of wheels, and he only saw a section of the heavenly vein, not knowing where to cross. The disaster of loss, known as the test of life and death, is not a mere exaggeration. Many arrogant figures, looking back on the past, have emphasized this level. Li Wangxian really encountered danger, his five senses became increasingly numb, his spiritual sense was about to disappear, and his whole body seemed to be sealed off, unable to hear, unable to see. He was like a deaf person, like a blind person. Ask my heart, where is the other shore? Li Wangxian had no fear or panic, and his heart was calm. He carefully pondered what he had learned and tried to look into the mist, wanting to see through. In the end, he really found a way. With just meditation on the grand vision that lingered in his heart, he could break through the fog and see through the sea of suffering. However, he did not do so. Instead, he carefully asked himself, treating it as a rare challenge. On the other side, is turning around the other side. He kept asking himself, the path of practice is winding and long. How can we turn back? How can we turn back? We should bravely move forward. The fog remained sealed off, and his senses became increasingly numb. He felt that he was about to lose all his spiritual senses, which was an unprecedented danger that could stop him and become a useless person. According to records, the greater the potential, the harder it is to get rid of the disaster of being lost. I am not discouraged, but rather grateful. Li Wangxian remained calm and relatively calm, without panic, but instead developed stronger confidence. In an instant, half a month had passed and he still hadn't emerged from the fog. Time slowly passed, and for 2 whole months, Li Wangxian was experiencing the disaster of being lost. When his five senses were completely deprived, he could not perceive anything. The other shore, is not the opposite shore. There is no need to search. Wherever I go, it is there. The place where I stand is the other shore, said Li Wangxian calmly. Roaming and rumbling. Clouds and mist churn and quickly disperse, the world is clear and everything is in front of us. In just an instant, the mist dissipated and his senses revived, surpassing the past. He was incredibly sharp, and a mysterious radiance enveloped him, as if he was being baptized. He passed the test of life and death, withstood the disaster of loss, and his instinct was baptized. His divine consciousness rushed out like a training horse, and his perceptible range became wider and wider. His body and mind seemed to have been tempered. Li Wangxian immersed his mind in the wheel sea. At this moment, the heavenly vein became increasingly thick and clear, like a purple golden beam on a sea, leading to an unknown place. He climbed onto the divine bridge and took direct steps, as he said, wherever he went, there was the other shore, and he crossed the sea. The sky was shining brightly, and he crossed the bitter sea to the end. This was a pure land with misty clouds. In the high sky, he vaguely saw a huge Taoist palace. The white clouds were leisurely blocking the view, and the Taoist palace disappeared and could no longer be captured. Li Wangxian didn't feel regretful. He had just landed on the other shore and couldn't complete it. How could he enter the secret realm of the Taoist palace? The legendary Tao palace corresponds to the chest area, where there are 5 gods. When practicing this secret realm, various strange things will happen. The immortality of the valley god is known as the Xian female, and the gate of the Xian female is the root of heaven and earth. The 5 gods conceive the 5 elements, with clear and subtle 5 qi, connected to the heavens and the earth, and continuous, which can generate Tao power. After reaching the other side of the world, he felt a change in himself, his essence and spirit sublimated, his divine power surging, and the sea of suffering opened up to the size of a palm. The waves were sparkling and brilliant. He felt as if one palm could shatter the blue sky and one foot could crack the earth, which was a strange illusion after his strength became stronger. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Taiyin Sun. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Taiyin Sun. After 1 year of cultivation, I crossed 4 small realms and stepped into the other shore. The last small realm of this will see secret realm. If this cultivation speed is spread, it can shake the entire Ziwei ancient star 3 times. It should be noted that many great emperors did not exhibit this behavior when they were young. Does this indicate that this child's potential will surpass some great emperors when they were young? That's the emperor's gift. Li Wangxian, who had stepped onto the other side, did not directly leave the pass. He needed to consolidate this realm. He did not expect to reach the other side's great and perfect realm, experiencing a cocoon-like transformation like a butterfly. After all, he had just reached this realm and needed some more time to accumulate. Later, he silently recited the ancient scriptures and remained silent for 10 days before finally waking up completely and completing this practice, completely stabilizing his current state on the other side, and even improving his cultivation beyond control. At this stage of cultivation, it's time to pause for a moment and refine a tool. After stopping his practice, Li Wangxian's heart twitched as he explored his divine sense into the wheel sea. At this moment, Yin and Yang were steaming above the black sea of suffering, and countless divine patterns were swirling around him, with about 1,000 of them. Each divine pattern is like a divine iron chain, winding over the black sea of suffering of Li Wangxian. This is a primitive form condensed from the essence of life. Cultivators can sacrifice divine patterns into various shapes, such as flying knives, daggers, etc., and can release them outside the body to kill enemies, which is more effective than simple, divine patterns. Some people spend a lot of time and effort sacrificing the primitive, divine patterns into flying swords, small shields, divine halberds, etc., which are easier to control and have much greater power against enemies. Some individuals are not afraid of complexity and mystery, repeatedly refining divine patterns and sacrificing them to form cauldrons, bells, or towers, which can unleash various mysterious powers. Legend has it that a very small number of cultivators may sacrifice and refine artifacts with divine patterns, which may undergo unexpected changes in the later stages, interweaving the trajectory of the Tao within the artifacts and possessing unpredictable power. Of course, this probability is very low. Only those cultivators with extraordinary talents and extremely powerful abilities may have such encounters. From past experience, it can be seen that the more complex and mysterious the artifact, refined through primitive, divine patterns, the greater its power. Ding and Zhong, or pagoda, are relatively intertwined with Tao trajectories inside, with the hope that they may be slightly larger. Of course, the more complex the tool, the more difficult it is to shape. It takes endless effort and time to forge a contour, wasting time in vain. Moreover, even if it is a lucky success, it is difficult to receive rewards through hard work in the later stages. After all, the hope of the path of the Tao appearing is too slim. For many cultivators, it is just a legend, only belonging to a very small number of talented and stunning characters. Refining the primitive, divine pattern into a tool is very important for cultivators, and everyone will take it seriously because it is the fundamental basis for their future possession. According to the scriptures, each of the four realms of Kuhai, Mingquan, Shenxiao, and Bienan can be forged into a tool. And he has already become a cultivator in the other side of the sea realm, but has not yet honed his first tool. He is seriously pondering what to choose, because this matter is crucial. Once the tool is refined and formed, it will be difficult to change. Moreover, the first tool is the foundation for the future and has a much greater impact than the tools forged from other realms. Since choosing the path of cultivation, everything will be considered in the long run. Li Wangxian first eliminated ordinary weapons such as flying swords, shields, and spears. He still has a lot of confidence in himself, believing that he is one of those rare and stunning figures. It's obvious that I'm 1 out of 10. In order for tools to interweave the trajectory of the Tao in the future, it is natural to choose among those complex and mysterious tools. What exactly to choose? Li Wangxian carefully considered for a long time, and finally his eyes lit up. In the end, he had a clear choice and decided to refine his divine pattern hammer into a bell. This is not a momentary impulse, it was carefully considered by Li Wangxian, not only because he subjectively likes domineering bells such as Zhong Yen, Chaos Bell, etc. How handsome they are! And the clock is also very suitable for his future path. After all, having obtained the Yin Yang immortal seed, he has already pondered his future path in the past few years. The Taiyin Sun, which is weak and which is strong, combines Yin and Yang, and the world is called the Emperor. What ancient scripture has been able to be like this, and if it is cultivated, it can be called an emperor. This is an extremely powerful path, and if it can be traversed, Emperor Cheng is almost destined. Even if one has enough talent, they may be able to achieve the fruits of the heavenly emperor's way. But this road is also extremely difficult. Throughout history, there have been some great sages who have practiced like this, but in the end, they have all embarked on a path of no return, with their bodies dying and their paths fading away, leaving nothing to regret. Even the later Emperor Zhetian, strictly speaking, was not considered successful. His path was to cultivate the 100 classics in a furnace, which intersected with the path of yin-yang synergy, but was not consistent. In addition, the farthest person on this road is the ancient man Mo Dongfang Tai, who reached the great sage Zhu Dian realm. Although he did not die, he did not really succeed and instead encountered problems. During the day, he is a god, and at night, he is a demon, often confused and confused. Even in the later stage of obscuring the sky, humans and demons may become a different kind of Tao. However, based on his later performance, he probably only borrowed the theory of Yi Tiandi's co-cultivation of Yin and Yang, using Tai Chi to separate the conflicts between Yin and Yang, rather than truly achieving the unity of Yin and Yang. As for whether Li Wangxian can get through, to be honest, he has no idea in his heart, but he has a yin-yang fairy seed. If he dares not even try, then he will never be able to preach in this lifetime. Moreover, the people in the Sun God Sect do not know. Can someone who has seen the cover of the sky not know that the fundamental reason for the decline of the Sun God Sect is that the forbidden zone of the underworld killed the sun like quasi-emperor, killed countless members of the sun's lineage, and extracted the sun blood needed by the supreme in the underworld in those distant years? This blood feud is still far away. The Jinwu tribe near Ziwei will soon annihilate the sun god cult, and only a lucky little girl named Zhetian was saved by Yi Fan who wandered to Ziwei. Otherwise, the bloodline of the Holy Emperor would really be extinct. This is one of his biggest hates when he looks at the sky. Surprisingly, he crossed over to cover the sky and became the divine son of the Sun God Sect. In the future, as the brother of Yi Hui, he naturally cannot let this happen again, so he must become strong enough. After all, the Jinwu tribe not only has the obvious Cheng Jinwu king, but also has a holy level heritage in the dark, and there is even a great saint sealed in the divine source. Therefore, he needs strength, to be able to kill the great sage. No, it's not enough, but also to be able to fight the Supreme One. Therefore, this path of yin-yang synergy is the most suitable for him. Although the Sun Sutra is now incomplete and the Taiyin Sutra has no shadow, Li Wangxian still has a mysterious confidence that he can obtain these two scriptures and embark on this invincible path. After all, the ancient scriptures of the Sun God Sect have been lost, but it does not mean that Violet Star does not have the Sun True Scripture. Yi Fan, who is far away from the Beidou, can obtain 2 volumes of scriptures, and even there are circulating scriptures on the Starry Sky Ancient Road. It is impossible for Ziwei, as the birthplace and seat of the Holy Emperor, to have the true scriptures passed down. Even where the ancient scriptures of the Sun God Sect were lost back then remains to be debated. After all, it is true that the underworld has killed countless members of the Sun God Sect, but they are born with Yin energy and cannot practice the Sun Manual, right? As for the Taiyin scripture, it's the same, and perhaps even better to handle it. After all, now that we have killed the bloodline of the Taiyin Emperor and taken away the foundation of the Taiyin Divine Sect, we are still in the family. Thinking of this, Li Wangxian's small face was cold and eerie, full of murderous intent. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Yangcheng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Yangcheng. Although I have determined to forge a bell as a tool, it is not easy to refine the original, divine pattern, hammer into a tool. This is a difficult and lengthy process, and it cannot be achieved overnight. Firstly, it is necessary to determine the form of the tool, firmly imprinted in the heart, and in the future, use it as a reference for tempering without any flaws. And this step, after Li Wangxian tried to carve a picture in his heart and use his divine sense to simulate refining the divine pattern into a bell, he understood that his impression of the bell was not deep enough, and the bell shape he imagined in his mind always felt wrong. It seems we need to personally go and see some ancient clocks. Li Wangxian left the palace where he was locked down and found his father. He proposed to leave the Sun God Sect and went to the outside world to search for some famous ancient clocks, providing reference for his own clock making. Upon hearing this, Li's father was very direct and called for Jiang Bo. He then touched Li Wangxian's head and handed over several Xuanyu terraces, which had already been carved with patterns that could cross the void. Li Wangxian was surprised. He didn't expect that the Sun God Sect, which was like a dilapidated household, would even have a good thing like Xuanyu Terrace that could directly cross the void and save his life. However, considering that Jiang Bo was able to escape from the pursuit of the Jinwu tribe with Xiao Guangxiu for a considerable amount of time, and then waited for Yi Fan's rescue, it was impossible to achieve it without the Xuanyu platform. After all, the Jinwu tribe is a bird that has become a spirit. In fact, a few bird species such as Jinwu and Tianping have always been known for their speed. This is refined by Mr. Lin and can cross 8,000 miles of void at once. Unfortunately, the materials are not enough, otherwise I can carve a few more for you. Li's father saw Li Wangxian's surprise and knew that his son, who loved to read ancient books, did not expect his son to recognize Xian Yute. Li Wangxian remained silent. After collecting the Xuanyu Terrace, he knew in his heart that these Xuanyu Terraces should be all the inventory of the Sun Sect. After all, the decline of the Sun Sect can be seen with the naked eye. Other sects have clusters of palaces and medicinal gardens, as well as flying waterfalls and flowing springs. Spiritual birds such as cranes and colorful phoenixes dance to decorate the scenery. Some even more coquettish sects include suspended islands and sacred mountains that claim to never fall. And what about the Sun cult? The several peaks within the sect are ordinary, and the palace was once pierced by a great calamity without divine gold. Only some wood was found to repair it, appearing slightly dilapidated. As for the spirit birds, they cannot be raised. As for the medicinal garden, there was a small medicinal garden before Li Wangxian was born, which was quite good. There were several thousand-year-old medicines and more than 1,000-year-old spiritual medicines. But now, there should only be a few hundred-year-old elixirs left. As for those lost spiritual medicines, they were naturally enough to be refined into spiritual pills to lay the foundation for Li Wangxian. The final fortune of the Sun Sect can be said to be entirely on me. Li Wangxian understood that the best way to respond to this favor was to turn the expectations of his family into reality. And at this moment, Jiang Bo, who had a white beard, also arrived, and what needed to be explained was also explained. Upon seeing this, Li Wangxian took out a longevity lock and put it on, then left with Jiang Bo. The Changqing lock is refined by Lin Lao, which can isolate the essence of heaven and earth and automatically connect with Li Wangxian. It can also to some extent conceal his breath. Therefore, except for practicing or ensuring that no one is around, Li Wangxian would wear a longevity lock to cover up his extraordinary qualities. After all, a 4-year-old cultivator on the other side is quite capable of intimidating people. Walking through the mountain gate of the Sun Sect, one can see that the Sun Sect has truly declined. Along the way to the mountain gate, only about 10 disciples were seen practicing martial arts and preaching within the gate. Although there are still some disciples practicing hard in the cave, in total, the Sun Sect has less than 100 disciples, and their qualifications are generally not very good, with only a few barely considered geniuses in the entire sect. After leaving the mountain gate, Jiang Bo rolled up a rainbow light to support Li Wangxian and fled to the east, to the destination of Yangcheng. Yangcheng is an ancient city with an extremely long history, dating back to the ancient times. At that time, this city was called the Sun Holy City, which was a sacred city owned by the Sun cult. Later, after the decline of the Sun cult, this city changed ownership several times, and over the long years, its name became Yang City at some point. Jiang Bo. Well, what's wrong, young master? In the rainbow, Li Wangxian's eyes were clear, looking down at the endless mountains and rivers below. He said seriously, I want to take back Yangcheng. Alright, when the young master becomes a saint and ancestor one day, he will reclaim Yangcheng. Jiang Bo responded seriously to Li Wangxian, not feeling that he was young at all, but treating him as a child's fairy tale. This is the character that Li Wangxian's performance in recent years has brought, intelligent and steady. Jiang Bo, aren't you afraid that I can't do it? If it's the young master's words, we can definitely do it, Jiang Bo responded naturally, as if it were natural. Yes, I will definitely do it, Li Wangxian replied seriously. As he spoke, Jiang Bo had already flown away with him for 800 miles, and he could already see Yangcheng from a distance. This ancient city is majestic and immensely magnificent, covering an extremely wide area, like an immortal divine city in the sky, exuding the atmosphere of ancient vicissitudes. The city gate is tall, with dozens of wild beasts riding side by side without crowding. The walls are mottled, and there are fluctuations in magic power above. If a major enemy attacks, divine light can overflow and protect the entire ancient city. Upon seeing Yangcheng, the two of them did not enter immediately. Instead, they pressed the stop of the rainbow light and had Jiang Bo use a mysterious technique to change their body shape before entering Yangcheng. The historical relationship between the Sun Sect and Yangcheng is well known in this city, so the disciples of the Sun Sect rarely come here, and even if they do, they usually cover up their identities. Otherwise, it's eye-catching. The purpose of this trip is just to catch a glimpse of the famous morning bell in Yangcheng and help Li Wangxian refine weapons. Naturally, it would be less troublesome to cover up his body. Yangcheng is very bustling, and this ancient city is extremely magnificent. If you don't fly, walk like a mortal, and pass through the city, it will take a few days to walk. The city is very bustling, with numerous palaces and wide ancient streets. It has everything from the gambling stone workshop to the immortal tower and the Fengyue palace, all of which are extremely luxurious, mixed with mortals and cultivators. In the city, where people come and go, half of them are cultivators. In such a place, everyone dare not act recklessly because this is one of the central points of the eastern divine realm of the purple viburnum star domain. Here, there are descendants of various holy sites, aristocratic families, and imperial dynasties, and there are also many elders of the older generation of holy sites. Perhaps if you are not careful, you may offend a skilled and powerful person you cannot afford to provoke, and such incidents happen frequently here. Therefore, Jiang Bo and Li Wangxian were very low-key. After entering the city, they headed straight to their destination without any intention of taking a good stroll around the city. After all, Jiang Bo's method of transformation is not very clever, and there is no effect that can change the original breath. If someone with a heart is watching, it is inevitable that a big trouble will occur. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Zhong Cheng. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Zhong Cheng. The morning bell that Li Wangxian wanted to watch is unknown, but it is quite legendary. It was originally a bell made of ordinary copper, but in the past, a world-renowned master, for some unknown reason, enlightened this ancient bell, making it immortal for hundreds of thousands of years. Therefore, many stories have been passed down about this clock, and now the truth and falsehood are undeniable. Perhaps only ancient books from ethnic religions that have been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years have recorded this matter. The ancient bell is unnamed, and the bell tower is located in the center of Yangcheng. Anyone can visit it without any restrictions. At the bell tower, to Li Wangxian's surprise, there were not many visitors here, only a small group of people. That's right, obviously only newcomers to this city would choose to watch here. After all, no matter how famous this clock is or how good any story is, it can't change the fact that it's just an ordinary clock. For so many years, countless famous elders have already confirmed that this is a mortal bell, and the inscription on the bell is only a scripture on purity, without any profound meaning. Li Wangxian approached the clock and upon closer inspection, he realized that it was indeed the case. However, this clock has been immortal for hundreds of thousands of years, and the traces left by time on it seem to have transformed into a different kind of Taoist rhyme. Li Wangxian tried to capture this trace of Dao Yun with his divine power, but was unsuccessful. The Dao Yun seemed elusive, like the moon in the water and the flower in the mirror. After several unsuccessful attempts, Li Wangxian did not continue to try, perhaps because he did not reach his level, or perhaps he did not have any Taoist charm at all. This was just the normal ancient charm left by the copper bell after years. But regardless of the reason, he won't get it now. This bell is 3 zhang 3 high and weighs over 10,000 jun. The sound of the bell is melodious and can reach a distance of up to 100 miles. On the side, Jiang Bo carefully introduced Li Wangxian to the various aspects of this ancient bell, such as the thickness and length of the bell body, after seeing him stop exploring his divine consciousness. The sound of this clock also has wonders. When lightly struck, it is round and deep, when heavily struck, it is rich and loud, with undulating sound waves and a bright and elegant rhythm. After watching this ancient clock up close, Li Wangxian realized that what he lacked in refining the clock was these many details. The refining of a clock is different from other heavy objects. It is not just about a grand shape and appearance, but also needs to consider thickness, sound transmission, vibration and many other functions, so the structure needs to be more detailed. After realizing this, Li Wangxian didn't stay any longer. He bought 2 copper bells from a bell-casting shop opened by ordinary people in the city, and also bought some books about bell casting before hastily leaving Yangcheng. Li Wangxian and his companions came and left quickly, and according to common sense, they were already careful enough. After all, even if someone with intentions paid attention to them in such a short period of time, there was not enough time to understand their situation and mobilize enough manpower. But their combination is still too eye-catching, a young boy of 4 or 5 years old, an elderly servant. These are the treatment of some aristocratic family heirs and great sect saints traveling. Of course, if that's the case, no one would dare to touch them, but who would have them first transform into the city, dare not see people with their true faces, and then hastily leave the city, as if hiding something. It's hard not to associate with it. A loyal old servant, perhaps a young aristocratic son in distress. What does this represent? This represents a plethora of sources, powerful scriptures and magical techniques. This is an opportunity to become rich. As for why they learned about the transformation of Li Wangxian and his 2 figures, it can only be said that these thoughtful people do have some skills, or if they don't even have these skills, they won't be able to continue in this field. Because something will happen sooner or later. They naturally did not see the scene of Jiang Bo and his 2 changing bodies, nor could they be directly seen by the heavenly eye after cultivation. Instead, they detected the difference in their bodies through a rare bone-penetrating mirror. And their actions naturally caught Jiang Bo's attention. Knowing that they were being targeted, they would not give anyone time to gather more experts, so the 2 hurriedly left. As soon as he left the city, Jiang Bo was very decisive. He immediately rolled up Li Wangxian and flew away at lightning speed. Regardless of how many people and cultivation would come behind, after flying a distance, he directly sacrificed himself to cross the void at the Xuanyu Terrace. No. The roaring from behind, Li Wangxian and the other 2, had no intention. After coming out of the Xuanyu Terrace, Jiang Bo was very decisive. He first offered a heavy weapon, and then offered another Xuanyu Terrace to cross over. After the 2 left, the weapon was detonated by the divine power left by Jiang Bo, disrupting the void. Li Wangxian and his companions left, and at the location where they had crossed the void for the first time, several monks with heavy weapons on their heads appeared shortly after. They were very embarrassed and escaped from the void. So decisive, so ruthless. A heavy weapon cost me more than 10 lives, a middle-aged man with a big cauldron hanging over his head muttered to himself as he looked at the turbulent void nearby. Head, the void has been disturbed and we can't push the performance coordinates anymore, said the middle-aged man Xiu's subordinate with his head hanging from the cauldron. Let's go, it's us who fell this time. The middle-aged man Xiu was very decisive and didn't feel ashamed or angry because he lost many subordinates in the void and didn't succeed. On the other hand, after coming out of the void, they were already very close to the Sun sect, and then the 2 quickly returned safely to the sect. Jiang Bo, who returned to the church, didn't say much to comfort Li Wangxian. Even Li's father and mother, who knew about this, didn't say a word, as if Li Wangxian and his 2 companions had never experienced this thrilling escape. Upon seeing this, Li Wangxian did not say much. After calmly greeting his parents, he turned around and returned to his own cave to start practicing and refining weapons. He understood that this was the cruel realm of cultivation, and the law of the jungle remained unchanged, not to mention that he was destined to embark on the path of the bloodthirsty emperor in the future. Adapting earlier will prevent him from suffering great losses in the future. This is the idea of Li's parents and father, which is why they deliberately showed indifference towards this matter with great determination, in order to hone his willpower and character. After Li Wangxian left, the calm expression on Li's mother's face could no longer be tense, and she became worried and heartbroken as she watched the direction of Li's departure. In fact, Although she had been trying hard to restrain herself just now, when Li Wangxian was present, she still didn't tense up. Although her face didn't show anything, her eyes were full of playfulness. "Brother Lon." Li's father looked at his wife with a heart-wrenching and worried expression. In silence, he reached out and hugged her, saying with a sense of self-blame, "I, as a father, am useless and incapable of providing a safe sky for my wife and children." Upon hearing these words, Li's mother didn't say anything more. She just hugged her husband tightly, knowing that the pain and self-blame in his own man's heart were not less than half of hers. "You know, he used to be so confident and proud." Li's father noticed his wife's emotions and let out a faint sigh before speaking again. On the other hand, Li Wangxian recalled the ancient bell he had seen today, and after flipping through the books on casting the bell, he finally constructed a satisfactory large bell in his heart. The bell shape is similar to the style of the Yongle bell, simple and natural. After the structure was clear, Li Wangxian immediately carved a picture in his heart, simulated thousands of divine patterns with divine consciousness, and then began to refine them, first shaping them in the sea of his heart. After unremitting efforts, thousands of divine patterns melted and eventually condensed into an inch-sized golden bell, shining brilliantly and perfectly. At the moment when this golden little bell was sacrificed in his heart, he felt more and more satisfied as he looked at it. The golden little bell, which was the size of a bean, became even more mysterious in his eyes, and in the end, it suddenly filled his heart, becoming both ancient and atmospheric, and natural. Yes, that's it. After Li Wangxian was finalized, he was forever engraved in his heart, and then he began to forge such a true bell in the sea of suffering. At first, he truly forged divine patterns in the sea of suffering. He encountered difficulties and found it difficult to unite thousands of divine patterns together. However, when he exerted his unparalleled spiritual power, which had been nurtured by the Yin and Yang immortal seeds for many years, quickly, he slowly melted thousands of divine patterns together, like a fist-sized divine iron lump, shining brightly. Later, Li Wangxian used the elemental divine power as the hammer, the Yin and Yang qi within the immortal species as the fire, and his own understanding of the sun's path as firewood. Through repeated trials and tribulations, this divine iron gradually transformed into a bell shape. Finally, after several hours of effort, the divine iron lump inside Li Wangxian's body was completely transformed into a shining golden light, like a golden bell of a small sun hanging over the sea of bitterness. The Dao Zhong has just begun to form, and then you just need to slowly refine it. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Return to Ancestors. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Return to Ancestors. The Dao Zhong has just begun to form, and if we want to forge the strongest artifact next, using only divine patterns to refine it is not enough. Although there are also cultivators who do this, we have never heard of the Emperor's soldiers being simply cast using divine patterns from the bitter sea. If you want to have stronger weapon power, generally speaking, you need to add immortal gold divine materials, and the materials should be good. It is best to use some kind of Xianhuang Mother Qi source root, immortal materials contained in Chaos Stone, and the 9 Great Immortal Gold. If you want the tool to better fit your body and have the ambition to prove the Tao, it is even more important to start refining divine weapons early. It is best to cast the tool embryo before truly understanding the Tao of heaven and earth in the 4 extremes realm, and accompany its master to overcome the heavenly calamity. However, when it comes to the question of immortal materials, even Li Wangxian, who has always considered himself a great emperor, is scratching his head. This is not easy to find, and Ziwei is not as good as Beidou. The original work is not heavily written, and there has never been any mention of immortal materials appearing in the Ziwei star domain, or perhaps there is none at all. It's really hard to say. The top-notch immortal materials have always been rare and hard to find. If they can't be found, we can only temporarily settle for second place. The 9 Heavenly King Jade series is not lacking here. Li Wangxian pondered for a while but couldn't come up with any ideas. If there was something, it was there, but if there wasn't, it was not. Now he can only temporarily put aside this idea. The most important thing at the moment is to improve his own cultivation. Although he didn't say anything and his will never wavered, today's encounter still had a certain impact on Li Wangxian's heart, making him truly feel the cruel side of the world. This greatly touched him. Although he had prepared and constructed in his heart when he realized that this was a time of obscurity, it was not until today that he realized that thinking is the same thing, but there are some things that can only be truly understood through experience. A valuable experience that I will remember for life, but I have never wavered. He was talking to himself, not to cheer or excuse himself, but to truly think so. Since he passed through the disaster of being lost in the divine bridge realm, he understood that he had always had the determination to die 9 times without regret in his heart. Perhaps it was the influence of the elders within the sect since childhood, or perhaps it was because the world was filled with the spirit of sacrificing everything for preaching that infected him, who knows. Wudao. Practice. This has become the main melody of Li Wangxian's life. He has no distractions in his heart and forgets about things and me. His cultivation speed is undoubtedly extremely terrifying, as he is completely immersed in the Taoist realm. In just 3 months, he cultivated to the great fullness of the Wheel Sea, experiencing the 9 transformations of 9 lives and 9 deaths on the other side, and undergoing a transformation like breaking out of a cocoon and becoming a butterfly. This was an extremely important transformation, and after he stepped into the Tao Palace realm on the same day, he understood. From this day on, when he practices, there will always be a surge of divine potential in his body, and then his whole body will emit golden light, including his hair, reflecting him like a deity. At first, Li Wangxian was not aware of his intentions and thought that there was a problem with his cultivation. However, soon after he confirmed that this was a change that was very beneficial to himself, he began to speculate. Later, he informed his father about this matter, and upon seeing his father's ecstatic expression, it was no different from his speculation. His bloodline has returned to his ancestors. The return of Emperor's blood to the ancestors would be extremely terrifying. Apart from a few extremely strong constitutions such as chaos, there is no constitution in this world that can surpass it. Of course, it also depends on the degree to which his bloodline can return to the ancestral level, whether it is the first generation's imperial level, the later grandchildren, or directly ranked after the 8th generation. However, Li Wangxian still has a good understanding of this. If it weren't for the image of returning to his ancestors at birth, it would be almost impossible for his bloodline to return to the level of an emperor. However, judging from my performance, I shouldn't be ranked outside the 8th generation either. Li Wangxian pondered to himself, after all, it has been several days and this wave of reincarnation has not yet ended. Obviously, the concentration of this reincarnation will not be low. As for the reason for returning to his ancestors, Li Wangxian believes that this may be due to the contribution of the Yin and Yang immortal species. After all, the Taiyin Sun is one of the fundamental forces of the universe. Having been nourished by the 2 energies of Yin and Yang for so many years, his body has already undergone multiple transformations, and with the complete solar path as a guide, it is reasonable for the imperial blood of the Sun Holy Emperor in his body to return to his ancestors. After confirming that his bloodline had returned to his ancestors, Li Wangxian directly declared his seclusion and practiced, experiencing various mysterious changes in his body. The elderly in the Sun cult and Li's father began to sell their assets almost crazily. As long as they could exchange them for those miraculous medicines that were effective for physical transformation, they would not hesitate to sell them in exchange for even a little better chance for Li Wangxian's transformation. Huangshu grass, Xianyuan pill, Tianyang flower. Although these so-called treasures combined do not have as much effect as yin-yang immortal seed, they do have an effect when accumulated, allowing his divine potential to emerge even more and become even hotter. Am I going to turn into the body of the sun? Li Wangxian murmured secretly. He naturally knew it was impossible, but now every time he started practicing, a divine sun would slowly rise up in his body. It was the power of the sun flowing, and he seemed to transform into a small human-shaped sun, shining and scorching. And 3 days later, this change reached its peak, and after his bloodline returned to its ancestral strength to its extreme, the sun god was reborn in his body's blood. Later, the profound meaning of the sun's residual scriptures he practiced resonated with the gods, with the sound of the Tao and Luan resounding throughout his body. He actually wanted to evolve towards a deeper direction. Is this the need to complete the residual scriptures on his own? After carefully listening and observing, Li Wangxian confirmed that the residual scriptures he practiced resonated with the emerging gods in his bloodline and were indeed sublimating, moving towards the direction of the flawless true scriptures. But during this process, there was no clear and specific cultivation method, only a profound meaning of the true scripture transformed into a sound that echoed through the body, telling the various mysteries of the sun's true scripture. This is like the Sun Emperor preaching in person, explaining the mysteries of the sun scripture to future generations. This is undoubtedly an astonishing creation, and if those who listen to the Tao have enough insight and talent, they may even be able to comprehend the complete Sun Sutra. If future generations have already practiced the Sun Sutra, then undoubtedly their understanding and perception of the Sun Sutra will advance by leaps and bounds, their cultivation will greatly improve, and even their future cultivation will be greatly beneficial. It doesn't matter if you practice incomplete scriptures, but if the scriptures are incomplete, your insights will not be as good as those who practice complete scriptures. Of course, this is not absolute, it also depends on individual intelligence and talent. Undoubtedly, in this regard, Li Wangxian has absolute confidence. It should be noted that before, when his cultivation was only in the divine bridge realm, he dared to use the Yin and Yang immortal seed to try to improve the Sun residual classic, and actually explored some ways. Although he was not successful, being able to have such thoughts and confidence is not because he has reached a certain depth of understanding of cultivation and scriptures. How can he dare to do so? This is enough to prove that he really has great talent in cultivation. Perhaps today I can complete the scriptures of the Luanhai and Daogong realms. Li Wangxian listened to Daoyin and looked at the Yin and Yang fairy seeds floating in the Kuhai life spring, showing a smile. If the Sun Sutra is a mathematical problem that has solved most of the problems, the Shaoyang Sutra is a backward method of solving problems, and the Sun Dao in the Yin-Yang immortal species is the result of this problem. If these three together go through a long period of time, it is only after Li Wangxian's cultivation and education have improved that the correct Sun Sutra can be obtained. Now that our bloodline has returned to our ancestors and the profound meaning has manifested itself as a Tao sound preaching, it is different. This is equivalent to the Sun Holy Emperor personally serving as a teacher to teach him how to do this question. I have already solved more than half of the problem, and I have the methods and answers to solve it. There is also a teacher explaining it on the side, and I am so talented. I can't think of a reason why I can't do this problem. Li Wangxian thought happily. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The End of Transformation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The End of Transformation. Sure enough, the next situation was exactly what Li Wangxian had imagined. He listened to the sound of the Tao and Luan emanating from deep within his bloodline, looked at the Sun God, and observed the Yin and Yang immortals. His whole body seemed to be in harmony with the Tao, possessing an indescribable Tao nature. He grasped that pulsation. At this moment, the heavens resonate with him, and the infinite power of the sun descends and overwhelms him. There is no need to ponder the meaning of the scriptures, as the profound meaning of the true scriptures of the sun appears and the remaining scriptures are complete. For 3 days, Li Wangxian's spirit climbed to the highest level since he was born, immersed in a wonderful state of enlightenment, and comprehensively sublimated his thinking, feeling, and nature. All kinds of incomprehensible principles in the past practice were like foam that could be broken at a touch. He made rapid progress on the path of cultivation and reached the pinnacle of his understanding of the Sun Sutra. If there were any gaps, the Sun Sutra seemed to have been filled. This is not an illusion. Li Wangxian really felt the taste of perfection during his practice. He knew that as long as he gave himself a few more months to organize and comprehend, he should be able to complete the Wheel C and Tao Palace volumes of the Sun Sutra. Even though the ancestral transformation had already been completed by this time, and there was no longer a resounding sound of the Tao Luan, he was confident that he had almost fully realized it. In addition, although the gods in the bloodline no longer resound incessantly, the gods themselves are a good reference. Compared to the complexity of the yin-yang immortal species, the gods in the bloodline are undoubtedly better understood and comprehended. Unexpectedly, after 3 months, Li Wangxian flipped through the remaining scriptures, read ancient books, and understood the divine principles. He gradually repaired the Will C scroll and Tao Palace scroll of the Sun manual from the original 70.8% to over 90%, but there was still no clue how to fill the remaining 10%. It's clear that he has already grasped that kind of mystery. But soon, Li Wangxian understood what was going on. Yes, every great emperor would revise his own scriptures while preaching. How could that imperial-level mystery be understood by a small cultivator in my Taoist realm? The ability to repair the remaining scriptures this time is entirely due to the relatively complete nature of the scriptures themselves, as well as various factors such as the return of imperial blood to the same origin. Otherwise, if he wants to achieve this step, he would at least have to cultivate to the realm of slaying the path or even to become a saint. Li Wangxian, who had a clear understanding of this point, did not dwell on it anymore. After all, the remaining 10% would not affect his combat power. After all, even those who have completed the entire imperial scripture, who can comprehend the imperial-level mystery of this 10%. At least no one should be able to achieve this before the sage. In fact, at this stage, the 2 volumes of the Sun Sutra are said to have been completed without any problem, and their performance is definitely not inferior to that of cultivators of other imperial scriptures. Of course, it is limited to these 2 volumes. Li Wangxian left the pass and a major earthquake occurred throughout the entire Sun God Sect. In the past 3 months, he has been practicing in seclusion, but there has been a lot of commotion. Not to mention that Father Li and Elder Li have been crazily selling their properties for treasures, but even his seclusion has caused a lot of unrest in the entire Sun Sect. When he returned to his ancestors and transformed, there was a resounding sound of the Great Road and the holy power of the sun descending from the sky submerged his secluded place. And then the transformation was completed. While he was doing his best to complete the remaining scriptures of the sun, there was also a sound of the great Tao Luan Yin in his palace. It was due to the gods in the palace working together with him to deduce and evolve the Sun true scriptures. The wonderful sound continued, and the Sun Tao spread throughout. It lasted for 3 months, and the entire Sun sect had already caused a sensation. This is really, I accidentally installed a big one. Feeling the multitude of astonished and shocking thoughts coming from afar, Li Wangxian felt both pleased and moved by his foresight. Before coming out, he had already put on the Yangcheng lock and fully concealed his divine power and realm, otherwise he might have leaked all his secrets. After all, passers-by and others in this world have vast and profound knowledge. They know almost everything, from the Great Emperor to the little cultivator of the Wheel C, and they have almost no secrets in front of them. He dare not bet that there is no such knowledgeable elder brother in the Sun sect. Even now, he also feels that he has already let out a lot of his old tricks. After all, the sound of the Great Road has been ringing for 3 months, and there are also phenomena such as the sun's holy power falling. Coupled with the behavior of Li and his father, it is actually easy to guess what could have happened if it weren't for the emperor's blood returning to the ancestors and undergoing transformation. Can it still be that the sun body has only awakened now? When Li Wangxian was secretly slandering himself, Jiang Lao appeared and immediately exerted his divine power to cover up his divine gaze before taking Li Wangxian away. I haven't seen you for a while, and I don't know if it's Li Wangxian's illusion. The palace of the Sun sect seems to be even more dilapidated. And, why is there only one main hall left, and the other few palaces? Li Wangxian glanced left and right, and finally confirmed that there was only one main hall left, as for the ones that were gone. Well, thinking about the treasures he refined, Li Wangxian decided not to pursue them. Inside the main hall, Li's father, mother, and senior members of Lin and Chen's Sun sect have all arrived. Well, these are the last essence of the Sun cult together with Jiang Bo. Among them, only Li Fu and Jiang Bo are the two great immortals. Both Lin and Chen are just capable of stepping into the realm of Sendai. However, although their cultivation is not high, they have intentionally honed their skills over the years to the point of being skilled. The skill of refining weapons and arranging formations, such as the ability to carve patterns that cross the void and refine the Xuanyu platform, can be enjoyed in any holy land. And Chen Lao's words are quite legendary, with both a good and bad alchemy technique and a good and good source technique. Why is it said to be neither good nor bad? It's because he is proficient in both of these skills but not proficient. Alchemy is fine, and we are still on the passing line, so we can earn some material fees. As for the source-seeking gambling stone, it really depends on luck. Although he has some skills, his optimism is average, and he occasionally surprises those who are not optimistic. It's very frustrating. However, speaking of it, it is rare for the Sun God Sect, which has broken down and settled down, to have such talents. They have mastered all 4 arts of cultivation. But if Li Wangxian's guess is correct, after the decline of the Sun God Sect, it can still endure for so many years. This situation should be passed down from generation to generation, allowing some people who are not very good at cultivation to refine these 4 arts. So, with the reputation and legacy of the Sun Holy Emperor, the Sun scripture has been lost again, and no one wants to truly bear the charge of killing the human emperor's bloodline, which is why the Sun Shintoism has barely been passed down. Unlike the Taiyin divine sect, which has declined, but due to the inheritance of the Taiyin scripture, one of the human mother scriptures, it has been remembered and tragically exterminated. The exact number of conspiracies and schemes involved is unknown to outsiders, but this cause and effect will eventually be settled. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. The Great Emperor's Wealth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 The Great Emperor's Wealth, Father, Mother. As soon as Li Wangxian entered the main hall, he had not finished greeting his parents when Lin and Chen, who were nearby, rushed towards him and began to touch him up and down. Don't, people are here. Hey, Grandpa Chen, there's no need to check there. Li Wangxian wanted to cry without tears, so he deliberately maintained his composure on a daily basis. At this moment, he directly broke his martial arts. Those who know understand that you are touching the bones and measuring the spirit, while those who don't think you are molesting the little boy. Hee. Don't be afraid, Grandpa Chen will check your health. Old Chen smiled back at Li Wangxian with a wide grin on his face. What a cheap smile. Li Wangxian had no choice but to secretly slander in his heart about this old and unrepaired person. In fact, Li's father and mother also felt the same way at this moment, but it didn't stop them from continuing to laugh and watch Xiao Wangxian eat his food. After all, who made him always look like a little adult, reducing their fun of raising children. At this moment, Lin Lao, who was focused on measuring his bones and receiving feedback from the Xuanfa method, was already excited and his whole body was trembling. Okay, the holy power is like a tide, and there is the sun god in the blood. This shouldn't lose much of the imperial level blood, right? Lin Lao, who had obtained this result, now had tears streaming down his white face. Although Li Wangxian had always been regarded as the most talented, he was not inferior to the recorded emperor when he was young. But they never did not worry in their hearts. After all, there are not a few examples in ancient books that were stunning when they were young and mature when they were old. But now it's different. The position of the Sun Emperor in their hearts is unparalleled, surpassing the gods. The bloodline of the human emperor is revived, and this child is destined to amaze the ages in the future. Emperor, these two words have collapsed for eternity. Even if they have been passed down for millions of years, they still have an unparalleled reputation. At this moment, even Chen, who is usually very carefree, was trembling with excitement. But he never stopped his movements, just repeatedly using the mysterious method to measure Li Wangxian's roots, bones, and blood vessels. Finally, after countless tests, he finally confirmed that all of this was true. Within the Sun sect, there was truly a divine son born with imperial blood returning to his ancestors, almost on par with an emperor. Millions of years, or even millions of years, finally, the glory of the Holy Emperor will once again shine on Ziwei. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone could no longer suppress the already surging excitement in their hearts, and the main hall of the Sun sect transformed into a large emotional scene. Crying, laughing, crying, laughing, crying. At this moment, only Li Wangxian, the person involved, could maintain a relatively calm mood in the hall, but he knew that his calmness was destined to last for a long time. Sure enough, soon Li's mother hugged him bouncing and jumping, and even pinched his small face, asking him why he didn't smile and asking him to laugh. Li Wangxian is helpless. Li's mother is usually okay, gentle and virtuous, but occasionally she may be a bit too lively, that is, disconnected. But when I saw Li Fu again, who was usually quite mature and steady, he looked at him with a proud face and an undisguised smile. What else can we do? We can only laugh along. Li Wangxian's face also showed a smile. After an unknown amount of time, the hall finally quieted down. Although the joy on each person's faces did not dissipate, there was finally no time when they were too excited to let go. Li Wangxian silently took out 2 volumes of scriptures and handed them to his father. What is this? Father Li took it and looked at it with a puzzled expression. The complete Sun Sutra of the Ocean Realm. Li's father wiped his eyes and looked at it again. It was still the same name. He looked up at Li Wangxian and then opened another scroll. Above, Hao Ran wrote, Complete Palace Realm of the Sun's True Scripture. The 2 volumes of the complete scriptures you came from there. Father Li's fingers trembled slightly as he opened the scriptures and carefully watched them. He knows that his own children have always been intelligent and calm, and they don't know how to play pranks on children. So, have these 2 volumes of scriptures really been completed? Is this the true scripture passed down from the emperor's blood during his return to his ancestors? But in that case, why are there only 2 volumes? Instead of the entire book? When the emperor's blood returned to his ancestors, the sun god in his bloodline resonated with the profound meaning of the remaining scriptures, and I used this to comprehend and repair it, Li Wangxian replied calmly. What? You completed it yourself, Jiang Bo exclaimed in shock. This is impossible. How could anyone repair the imperial scriptures in this realm? I have never heard of such a person in ancient times. Lin Lao couldn't maintain his previous reliable image and spoke loudly. Seeing that the main hall was once again embroiled in a large-scale emotional entanglement, Li Wangxian compared himself with a score of 2 in his heart. Ask you to show me and touch. Li Wangxian secretly felt pleased in his heart, but on his face, he said calmly, what Mr. Lin said is also true. I can't fill in the final imperial level mysteries of these 2 volumes of scriptures. That's right. Otherwise, it would be unreasonable for a cultivator in a Taoist palace to be able to repair the imperial scriptures. Chen nodded and suddenly understood the Tao. Does that make sense? Except for Li Wangxian, everyone in the hall shouted back loudly. It really makes sense. Li Wangxian, however, strongly agreed with Chen Laotu's words and gave a special example, saying, that kind of imperial-level profound meaning cannot be filled by cultivators in the Tao Palace realm. At that time, I felt that I had already understood something, but when it came to repairing it, I couldn't write it out. In a deathly silence, Li's father's forehead was bulging and twitching, and for the first time he felt that something was wrong with his child. Oh, it seems like it's too big. Looking at the quiet atmosphere in the main hall, Li Wangxian felt both relieved and worried. He couldn't just expose his true face like this. What's wrong? Is there something wrong there? He looked at the people in the hall with a puzzled expression and asked. Would he be someone who talks big and likes to pretend to be 13, like a grandiose sun god born from embracing yin and yang? That's not right there. The people inside the hall were speechless in their hearts, but they couldn't speak, otherwise it would appear that they had poor qualifications and limited knowledge. Despite the fact, they don't want face, do they? In the end, Li Mu, the person with the least burden, broke the silence. The higher her son's achievements, the more proud and prestigious she became. Holding Li Wangxian, she smiled and said, "My son Wangxian has the talent of a great emperor." Puff. Upon hearing this familiar catchphrase, Li Wangxian's calm expression on his face finally broke free and he exhaled in one breath. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 Road 5. Desire to travel far away. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Road 5. Desire to travel far away, mother. I don't need to say that I have the talent of a great emperor, Li Wangxian said softly after taking a breath. But, I hope you do have the wealth of a great emperor. Li Mu was puzzled. Is there any problem with this statement? I didn't say it outside again. The rumors spread. Not good. Li Wangxian can only say that. Otherwise, what can he do? Can he still admit that he doesn't have the qualifications to become an emperor? Upon hearing this, Li's mother immediately patted her chest and promised, "Don't worry, my mother will definitely not go out and spread rumors." I hope so. Li Wangxian let out a faint sigh. Unexpectedly, before his lifelong fame could be written, he almost added a dark history. On the other hand, Father Li and several elderly members of the sect had already taken advantage of this time to complete the Sun Sutra repaired by Li Wangxian. Has it really been completed? Lin trembled and looked at Li's father and Jiang Bo. These two people in the divine religion have the highest cultivation and the best qualifications among these old guys. Jiang Bo looked at Father Li, the leader of the sect. The leader nodded. Then Jiang Bo said, "I just tried to run the scriptures once and there is indeed a feeling of completeness. I think what the young master said is not wrong. The ancient scriptures we teach are indeed 2 volumes that have been completed." Chen Dashi said, "So there are 2 volumes of Emperor's scriptures in our sect." I can't say that, it's just a change from 70.80% to 90%. It's still far from the imperial scriptures, and even the quasi-imperial scriptures may not be included, Li Fu corrected on the side. However, soon he added, the words of the Emperor's Sutra will naturally be completed when Xiaowang testifies in the future. Well, this time Li's father is no longer reserved. His confidence in Li Wangxian has completely broken through his inner limits. Judging from his current state, if it weren't for Li Wangxian's inexplicable aversion to the words, Emperor's wealth, just now, he would probably have called out these words on the spot. But Li's father could still be a little more stable, but Chen Lao didn't. He shouted directly, "I teach the divine sun, I have the talent of a great emperor. It's over, it can't be picked anymore," and Li Wangxian's eyes turned black. Looking at the crowd with a look of agreement and ecstasy on their faces, he knew that this sentence could not be erased in the hearts of these people. As for whether it would spread in the future, only ghosts knew. After this double surprise, the Emperor's blood returned to his ancestors and the Emperor's Sutra was completed. This super double happiness caused all the high-level members of the Sun God Sect to lose their illusions about the future, completely devoid of their usual stable and reliable image. Seeing this, Li Wangxian walked out with a dark face. "Why does Shenxi seem unhappy?" Lin Lao asked in confusion. "Is it because we just focused on our own happiness and didn't praise Shenxi well?" Chen Lao guessed. Jiang Bo also discussed seriously and said, "Maybe it's just that, children, they just want adults to praise them more." At this moment, Li's father had no time to think about this small matter. Instead, he looked at the crowd and said, "Everything that happened today cannot be said, including the inheritance of the true scriptures. We must carefully choose good people to pass on. It should be like this. Everyone nodded, and even Mr. Lin suggested, the true scriptures should be passed on when the divine son grows up and can be fearless of the many great teachings of Ziwei. Everyone was greatly moved by this proposal. After all, the lessons of the Taiyin lineage are still vividly remembered, and the most important thing at present is that Li Wangxian can grow up, rather than adding any trouble to him. That may not be possible at all. After all these years of survival, what's the point of sticking to it for a while longer? Moreover, judging from Li Wangxian's qualifications, this growth time may not take long at all. Okay. On one hand, the senior members of the Sun sect reached a consensus, while on the other hand, Li Wangxian ignored the many curious gazes from within the sect and went straight back to his secluded place, practicing diligently. Time flies like a shuttle, and in a hurry, a year has passed. Li Wangxian's 5 elements cultivation palace has been completed, and now he is also a cultivator in the 5 heavens of the palace. The Dao Gong corresponds to the position of the 5 internal organs in the human body, which are the chest and ribs. The 5 organs of the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys are collectively known as the 5 Zangs, also known as the 5 Shens. They store essence and qi without diarrhea, accumulate vitality and immortality, and are an extremely powerful secret realm of the human body. This is a secret realm that cannot be ignored. If you want to immortal, you need to work hard from this secret realm. If you want to take it to the next level and understand the immortal way, you also need to evolve the 5 elements here. The 5 deities in the Taoist palace are closely related to them and can generate Taoist power, transform birth mechanisms, and are actually places for nurturing life. If a person can nourish their spirit, they will not die. The 5 gods are always present, and eternal spring will last forever. The 5 qi are connected to heaven and earth, stretching endlessly, and can last forever in the world. At first, my cultivation level was 1 level heaven in the Dao Palace, but now it is Dao 5, averaging 1 level heaven every 3 months. This is still the result of my deliberate pressure. Looking back at the rapid growth of Li Wangxian's cultivation over the past year, he was shocked. Not to mention the bottleneck, sometimes without cultivation, his cultivation was automatically improving. He had to be distracted and suppressed, and even took time to find Chen Lao to learn Yuan Shu and Lin Lao to learn array patterns. It has to be said that the benefits brought by the return of Emperor's blood to his ancestors are enormous, and the completion of Emperor's scriptures and another transformation of his physique are secondary. The most important thing is that his profound understanding of the Tao, which he has been practicing for many years, has transformed into a tangible growth in his path. This change is much more precious and terrifying than the increase in divine power. Now he has no idea how much combat power he can achieve, and he suspects that even if the cultivators in the 4 extremes have a vision, they may not be able to do anything about themselves. After all, although the evolution of anomalies is a manifestation of the original divine arts in special constitutions, its essence is also a manifestation of some kind of Dao Xing, but this Dao Xing deeply penetrates into blood vessels and constitutions. Now, with the support of the Sun God Sect and the cultivation of the Dao Palace, his years of understanding of the Yin-Yang immortal race have transformed into a true, Taoist practice. As for its power, he once tried it out of the mountain gate, and with the display of the sun's holy power, it was like burning the sky and boiling the sea, directly submerging and destroying a mountain peak. Jiang Bo, who came to guard him, couldn't close his mouth for a long time. Now that the 5 heavenly heavens of the Taoist temple have reached their peak, the sun's holy power is already so strong. If you want to continue practicing Yin and Yang together, you must quickly find the power of the Taiyin true classic. Li Wangxian thought of this and understood that he couldn't procrastinate anymore. Otherwise, the stronger the Sun manual was practiced, the greater the conflict between fellow practitioners of the Taiyin. I remember there was a Tianyuan city in Luzhou, which is said to be the permanent residence and seclusion of the Emperor of Taiyin. For so many years, there has been a constant stream of people searching for fate, and even the old madman, the great saint, has been searching for something in the imperial seclusion outside Tianyuan city when he arrived at Ziwei. There must be something mysterious about this place. There may not be a true Taiyin scripture, but there is still a possibility. Thinking of this, Li Wangxian also made up his mind. If you can find it, it's best. If you can't find it, you can only cultivate the sun's holy power to reach the Holy Lord first, and then find a way to plan the true scriptures of the Taiyin divine sect. And when I go out, I also check if I can find any immortal gold divine materials to refine my tools. After all, during the Four Extremes heavenly robbery, although tools refined with divine patterns should also be able to engrave the imprint of the laws in a heavenly robbery, it would be better to refine immortal gold simultaneously. So, Li Wangxian left the pass and directly found his father, explaining his meaning. What, you want to go to Luzhou to experience? No, you're still too young. Without any accidents, I was indeed rejected directly. End of this chapter.